So listen, given my background, if you look at CLS or you look at Swift and other innovations, since we're, the R3 Quarter platform works for all industries, okay? But we're talking about finance here. It took those organizations over a decade to get live. I had a treasury platform that I started at the same time as R3 called LiquidityEdge, which I sold to a company called Market Access. That took 6 years and it's only getting traction now. So I think the big thing for us is that we made design choices around privacy, scalability, and security. We avoided the drug of the hype of trying to get into public blockchain. People are now realize that the public blockchain was a mistake. They're trying to implement privacy on top of it. People are now concentrating on the environmental impact of proof of work and the like. So it's playing to our strength, and it's getting real this year. One thing I want to mention is the entire Italian banking system will be on Corda for interbank payments this year. Hundreds of millions of transactions will be transacted on Corda this year. So it is getting real. It's been 6 years. That feels all right to me.
Sir, we've searched everywhere. There's nothing here.
It's here. Find it.
Yes, sir. Why did it search?
As the beneficiary, Company A can choose the currency in which they'd like to be paid. In this case, Company A chooses XRP. To update the obligation, Company A will get the current exchange rate from an exchange rate oracle, and then update the obligation with the new currency and amount. Having made these changes, Company A obtains a signature from the notary service and distributes the obligation to Company B. Corda Settler also allows users to add additional terms, such as the desired payment address on the XRP network. Company A updates the obligation again and distributes it. Company B is now ready to settle this obligation, and so initiates a transaction from their XRP node. This obligation can be settled in one or many transactions.
No. Impossible. Impressive.
If I'm right about micropayments becoming like the thing, there's going to be a massive revolution in the way software interacts with money, and that's going to be a tremendous opportunity. That's going to be a whole new multi-billion-dollar industry. Over 1 billion micropayments were made last year just by web monetization. So the technology works today. It's not 100. There's a lot of stuff missing, just like the early days of the internet, but the opportunity is very clear. The money is routed through connectors. These protocols can connect digital assets with traditional systems seamlessly. They work just fine regardless of the underlying ledgers, just like IP can go over any lower layer. And this is an open standard, which is what we need. Like, you wouldn't want to integrate with the internet if every website used a completely different protocol, every data provider. There is a standard. There is a neutral standard that doesn't specify anything more than it has to.
need to, all of us, contribute to the creation of the internet of value, but we need to avoid to contribute by adopting an old mindset that comes from the old capitalist model. We need to avoid to make private profits and to extract revenue from the system. We need to think of the internet of value as a public good, and if this public good is healthy and grow, all of us will benefit.
There is no escape.
Can control the price to some degree because ultimately the Ripple community has so much power, no?
No, I mean, if you look at the correlations between XRP and most of the crypto market, or what are often called the altcoins, you see a very high degree of correlation. Ripple can't control the price of XRP any more than the whales can control the price of Bitcoin. Some of these markets, particularly smaller tokens that are have a lower market cap and lower float, if you will, they are at risk of people manipulating them. But you're talking about XRP trades, order of magnitude $1 billion, according to CoinMarketCap, trades, on an order of magnitude $1 billion a day of activity. So I don't think anybody's in a position to really manipulate those prices.
You disappoint me, Ben. Perhaps you are not as strong as I had hoped. Now, your failure leaves me with no other choice but to destroy you. It is pointless to resist.
People who just talk about blockchain are talking about something very interesting, but it's a piece of enterprise technology that's an advanced database, and a private blockchain unconnected to the global, to the Bitcoin or another digital currency blockchain is the equivalent of the intranet. Remember we had intranets to begin with, where it was really cool. You could do internal communication with people in your own companies, but it wasn't really until those intranets were connected via the internet protocol to other intranets to create the World Wide Web of intranets called the internet that the world changed. The world is going to change in finance when we connect the private blockchains via the Bitcoin or Ethereum or other protocol to the other blockchains in the world. Have a global blockchain that's the World Wide Web of blockchains that'll fundamentally change the way in which not only do we move value around the world at the speed of light, but also in which we actually fundamentally change the way in which we compute, because it's the fourth computing paradigm I've experienced in my lifetime, the decentralized computing paradigm. That is the vision of where we can really go with this. That's transformational. Now, the first step will be the intranets, the blockchains, as those get deployed. But that's not the end point. That's just a first step.
when you compare across the world of digital assets, you can see that they're very different. I think what we've seen in the trading in the last 90 days, where XRP's value has actually increased and everything else has collapsed, you really do see some differentiation in the marketplace, because indeed, these digital assets are different. The cost per transaction for XRP is significantly lower than Bitcoin Cash or Litecoin or Ether, or certainly Bitcoin, which is much more expensive. The transaction speed is enormously faster because XRP is really focused solely on the transmutation of value, that a transaction can happen in 3 seconds. And indeed, there are so many transactions that there can be 1,500 transactions a second. Bitcoin can only handle about 32, Ether about 16, and so on.